You won't believe what Julius Malema did on the 21st of March. You know there's never a dull moment in South African politics, and this time, it's the EFF making headlines again. Human Rights Day, a day meant to reflect on the sacrifices made for freedom and equality, was marked by the economic freedom fighters in a way only they could pull off. How? By singing, "Kill the Boer." Now, before we dive deep into the layers of this controversy, let's get one thing straight. South Africa is a country where symbolism, history, and political statements all carry weight heavier than a bag of cement on payday.
Outrage! Kita! Kill me! Didi wada, Rumo, Asisha. Where were you when I'm treated? Where were you when I'm dreamt? So fast Kichi, Emoye, so fast Kichi, Etati, Kichima, Zibram Konto, Alliance, shoot to kill, Namaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer, brr, pa, pa.
This isn't just a song. It's a political flashpoint, a legal debate, and an emotional trigger all rolled into one. So, let's break it down. Why did the EFF decide that this was the appropriate way to commemorate Human Rights Day? What message were they trying to send? And, perhaps the biggest question, what does this mean for South Africa's political landscape moving forward? First off, let's talk about the song itself. "Shoot the Boer" is an old anti-apartheid struggle song. It was sung during the fight against a brutal system, a time when such words were meant to mobilize and inspire resistance against oppression. For many who fought in that struggle, it was not just a song but a rallying cry for liberation. But here's the thing, apartheid ended 30 years ago. And yet, the song continues to be sung, sparking outrage, legal battles, and heated debates every time it happens. Enter Julius Malema and the EFF, who have made it a signature part of their political identity. In their eyes, singing the song is a form of political defiance, a way to remind South Africans that economic freedom is still an ongoing struggle. They argue that the song is a piece of history, a reminder of the past injustices that still shape today's inequalities. But here's where it gets messy. Because for others, particularly the white farming community and groups like AfriForum, this is more than just a song. It's seen as hate speech, a direct incitement to violence, and a threat to their safety. And that's where the real conflict lies. South Africa is a country still grappling with deep social and economic divides. When the EFF sings this song, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening in a country where farm attacks are a reality, where racial tensions still simmer beneath the surface, and where words, especially politically charged ones, carry serious consequences. But let's zoom out for a second. Because while the EFF was belting out, "Kill the Boer," in commemoration of Human Rights Day, the broader irony here cannot be ignored. Human Rights Day is meant to honor those who lost their lives in the Sharpeville massacre of 1960, a moment where peaceful protesters were gunned down by the apartheid police for standing up against the past laws. The essence of this day is supposed to be about unity, remembrance, and ensuring that history does not repeat itself. And yet, here we are. A song that is widely seen as divisive is being sung on a day meant for unity. The very principle of human rights is about dignity for all, about ensuring that no group feels threatened or marginalized. So, the question must be asked, does the EFF's choice of song honor this principle, or does it contradict it? Of course, Julius Malema and his party members will argue that they are the ones standing for the oppressed, that the struggle for economic freedom is far from over. And they're not wrong about the economic inequalities. South Africa remains one of the most unequal societies in the world. But does singing this song actually move the country forward? Or does it simply deepen the existing divides? Predictably, reactions have been intense. AfriForum and other organizations have already condemned the act, calling it hate speech and vowing to take legal action. Business leaders, political analysts, and the general public have weighed in, with opinions as polarized as the country itself. Some argue that it's a distraction from the real issues South Africans face: poverty, unemployment, crime. Others say that the song, regardless of intent, has no place in a democratic society trying to heal from its past. And let's not forget the global perspective. South Africa, as a country, is constantly under the microscope for its handling of racial tensions. This kind of controversy does not go unnoticed, and whether we like it or not, it impacts international perceptions of the country's stability, investment potential, and political maturity. So, where does this leave us? Will the EFF continue to push the boundaries, using the song as a weapon of political resistance? Will the courts be drawn into another legal battle over whether this constitutes free speech or hate speech? And more importantly, what does this say about where South Africa is headed? One thing is for sure, this debate is far from over. The EFF thrives on controversy, and as long as their base responds positively to these moves, they'll keep making them. But at some point, South Africa has to ask itself, are we moving forward, or are we just stuck in a cycle of provocation and outrage? For now, all we can do is watch, debate, and hope that somewhere in all of this, there's a lesson about unity, progress, and what it truly means to commemorate Human Rights Day. Because if we're still fighting over the past, how do we ever build the future?